Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 24 of Neuroshambles. Once again, it's an absolute joy to have you here. Thanks for joining me, and thanks also for all the lovely messages that you're sending in. It's always really nice to hear that people are listening to the show and responding to the show. I had a really nice message from Cara, who sent me one of her personal what the flip moments from her own child, which I wanted to share. And she said, "Here's one of my what the flip moments from when my son was smaller. Mum, you know you can count how old trees are from the rings on the trunk? Can I do the same with the wrinkles on your face?" It's just nice to know that I'm not the only one out there whose physical appearance is ridiculed by our neurodivergent children. Thanks for sharing that, Cara. That genuinely made me feel a little bit better about myself. Anyway, if anyone else has got any what the flip moments to share, please feel free to email me at hello@neuroshambles.com. There's going to be some more what the flip moments coming up in the It's Not All Rubbish section towards the end of the show, where we'll also be looking at neurodiversity champions and tiny epic wins. But for now, I've got a new guest to meet to talk about our topic of the week. So let's get started.
Meet the guest.
So this week's guest is somebody who contacted the show in episode 1, actually, with a suggestion, and I got him on, and it was really lovely. So much so that we've been out for beers a few times since. So I am delighted to welcome back to the show. It's Samuel Wilson. How are you doing, Sam?
I am doing great. Thank you, Mark.
Lovely to have you back. Now, obviously, not everyone will have listened to the episode that we did previously, which was the Life as a Social Outcast episode. So if they haven't, let's just remind ourselves of your setup there. Who've you got there, Sam?
So I've got a brace of little people in my lives. I've got an 8-year-old daughter called Ufi. She has a number of diagnoses, from cerebral palsy to cerebral visual impairment through to precocious puberty, suspected autism, which we're on the pathway of for diagnosis right now.
You were on the pathway last time, I think.
You know how the pathway is. It's like, okay, it's not a quick process in any world. Okay, yes, she's on the pathway and she will get an assessment, and we're getting closer to that. I think we're not far away. We haven't got a confirmed date, but based on the rumblings behind the scenes, I think we're kind of pretty close to that, which is good.
Okay, fine. It's very much like electing a pope, isn't it?
It's somewhat, yeah. I haven't seen White Smoke, but I know it's out there somewhere, so I'm just looking to
It's a secretive process that you don't have any insight into, but then when you know, and everything changes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think we're not far away on the autism pathway diagnosis, which is good.
Well, knowing what you know about autism, it's likely from your own diagnosis.
I mean,
right?
From everything I know, from speaking to you, from speaking to families at school who have kids with diagnosis or at least undiagnosed, it's like there's not a world where she isn't. She wants to hang out with kids with autism, and her brain works in a way which is like, okay, you've got superpowers, but it's not the same as like everyone else. You're like, yeah, you've got your own pathway. That's it, and that's cool. Okay. But we want to just get that diagnosed and understand it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a son as well, right?
We do, yeah. We've got a little man that lies, 5-year-old, goes by the name of Pancho, and suspected neurotypical. He might have ADHD, which would probably be my fault because I'm in the middle of an ADHD diagnosis as we speak, randomly.
Oh, that's a new update from the last episode, I think.
It's a rapid update from the last episode, yeah. That was just from a therapy sessions, speaking to people. And my therapist was like, "Have you ever been tested for ADHD?" I said, "No, why not?" "Oh, look, squirrel. Great, amazing." And it's like, maybe you might have a little bit of an attention deficit thing going on there. It's like, okay. So yeah, I'm literally got a test booked in for next week.
Good luck. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see what little man comes out with. But he is neurotypical as far as we understand currently.
All right. Well, that's yeah. Thanks for reminding us of your setup. Let's just crack on with this one because this is one I'm looking forward to, and we'll see what the topic of the week is.
What's the topic of the week?
So, the topic of the week for this episode is all about keeping up with the Joneses, which is the sometimes unconscious instinct that we have as humans to covet what other people have and want the same for our own lives. So, if they get a new car, we want to have one so we don't feel inferior. If they're impeccably dressed, we try to be the same so we're not looked down upon. If they all go out for a regular Sunday stroll without it descending into chaotic meltdowns and public humiliation, we want the same for our family. So I think all parents of special needs kids experience this feeling probably quite early on in their journey, right? We want to be like others early doors. And I think certainly with how our kids behave or with the activities that we can do with them, and I know personally that I wasted a lot of time in the early days comparing us to other families and working out why we were different and feeling a sense of frustration that we maybe didn't measure up somehow. So I thought it was worth looking at this topic and see how it affects us and ultimately what we can do to overcome these feelings of inadequacy sometimes and hopefully put us in a bit more of a healthy place. Is that the kind of thing that you also experienced in the early days of sort of looking at other families and going,
Yeah, early days, current days, it's always a thing. And it's something I've spoken about with like close friends as well. Like, because consciously or unconsciously, you always measure up everything that you do or your kids do against other kids. And even if it's your kids in a special class or for special achievements, you think about, okay, well, maybe they should be doing better. But when it comes to like the normal day to day, let's talk about it in a school environment where you have the kids and the parents, and they're going to skateboarding class, they're going to artifact class, they're going to this class, and you're like, yeah, my kid's not going to do that. And I kind of want them to be that kid, but at the same time, it's a really difficult emotion to manage
because it's an instinct, like I was saying, you can't help it.
Yeah.
Like it's not really a conscious thought, and you find yourself slipping into it occasionally, and then reining it in.
Yeah, exactly. And you feel it. You have that constantly, but it's also a battle that you kind of get a bit more cognizant of, and you're like, okay, I'm going to step away from that because no, I'm not going to put myself in that environment because I know that, yeah, that's just going to make me feel like shit and my kid's going to be unhappy. And then when you kind of go through that journey a bit more, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, we're going to find our happy place and we're not really bothered about what everyone else is doing. I don't care what car you're driving because your car's going to be filled with vomit and crumbs anyway. It's like, it's all fine. It's just like that whole kind of status symbol or whatever. It's like, that all becomes really irrelevant really quickly. Like,
but that's kind of where you got to now, right? And I feel like I'm in a similar place with my lot. But there's a whole journey to get to that from when, like, from even before our kids are born, right? Of how you imagine things are going to pan out and what you want your family to look like. So I want to kind of go through that, and have a look at all the nuances of that journey and work it and just kind of pick it apart because I love to do that.
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
So my first question is, who the fuck are the Joneses? Right, who are these people that we're trying to compare ourselves against? Because it's this sort of nebulous concept of the neighbors that have it all, right? And I've thought about, like, they're the kind of family that always do everything together, and like the boy plays football and the girl does ballet, and they go on family rambles and they eat in proper restaurants and they go to the pub together, and the kids excel at school and they all do their homework without massive fights, and they help with the dishes, and they make you fucking sick.
Yeah,
I hate them.
They're pretty nauseating, to be fair. But okay, there in itself is a difficult one because I'm sure, like, I've got close friends who are the Joneses, the neurotypicals with kids. They've got two kids, a daughter and a boy. The daughter is doing dance, the kid is doing rugby. They meet up for lunches and brunches and do all of that kind of stuff. And I've been through that journey of like, they're my friends and I love them. It's like, oh, fuck you guys. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And it is a journey. It is a journey. Okay, so I'm trying to put myself back into the early point of the
Yeah,
journey.
because it's hard, isn't it? Because
It
it's a
is
whole
hard.
evolution of how we deal with this is a whole evolution. And because in my head, maybe these people don't exist. Maybe it's just this theoretical ideal that we are holding people to that isn't actually a reflection of their reality. It might be us projecting onto them. We don't know. I don't know your friends, but maybe they're having a horrible time.
I think.
Maybe they don't want to go to the pub with their
I
kids,
think.
but they're being forced to.
I think. I think there's something in
I'm
that.
hoping here, Sam.
I'm thinking there's something in that because I think, yeah, even for the neurotypicals, and I think we're classing the Joneses, the neurotypicals, like the Neuro Jones.
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah.
Neuro
I mean,
Joneses, these guys,
yes.
they have this idea that, okay, we're going to go, our kids will do football and dance and everything in the morning. We'll go have brunch. We'll go out and we'll have the best time and it's going to be picture Instagram perfect. And it isn't in any way. There's always going to be shit behind the scenes because that doesn't exist as this perfect nuclear family ideal because everyone's human and they've got pains and worries and they're trying to balance work and childcare and shit, I've just been made redundant and how do I think about what we're going to do for the next holiday? All of that exists. But I think, I mean, I don't want to turn it into a social media episode, but I think there's a massive prevalence of people wanting to show that their life is really, really lovely and great and yada, yada.
Yeah.
But for us as parents of superhuman, amazing, neurodiverse, challengingly wonderful little people, we don't get involved in that. I mean,
well, you're right to highlight social media as being a thing because it's so dangerous for people showcasing their lives in the best possible light and just showing off. Like I get why they do it because also, social media is like family and friends as well. And you want your parents to look at your life and go, oh, they're doing really well. And you want to, I don't know, you want to look like you're achieving, right? But it is, from my perspective, when I see some of the shit that people post on social media that are my friends, they're friends of mine, I'm happy they're doing well, but I don't need to see it. Like I've got a friend of mine whose son is like the same age as Otto and he's quite obviously a golf prodigy. Right, he's incredible. He's been posting shit from when this kid was 4, and it is just like, look at this. And this kid is just pinging balls onto the green from 200 yards from like at the age of 4 or something. It's insane. And I look at it and I sort of just laugh a little bit because I'm like, that is so far from my reality. And I get why he's doing that. I understand that, but it does make it's just like, oh, come on. It's like if I posted my reality, it'd be like, look, Otto's using a knife and fork.
Yeah, look, I didn't clean any fecal matter off the wall today. This is good. Like
winning, I'm winning, guys. But we don't share that stuff because it's almost like we're not included. We're not being judged in the same ways. Maybe I don't know why. I haven't got the inclination, and maybe if my kids were like prodigious at something extraordinary that other people would get, maybe I would do that. But I don't think I would. I don't think I'm the sort.
I don't think I'm the sort either to do that. You know what? To be fair, like pre-kids, I may have been the sort, but post-kids, I'm definitely not the sort to have done that.
Okay.
I may have been a bit braggy and been like, yeah, check it out. I'm on holiday here and look at me and done that. But post-kids, that is no longer a thing because of just everything you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we've got wins we can brag about, and they are huge wins in our world. But if we put that into this kind of neurotypical social world, people would be like, okay, well done. That's great. Moving on. Oh, look, they're in Bali. Amazing. Woo!
And I don't know, there is something about posting your kids' achievements that am I wrong to just be a bit off-put by it? Maybe
I don't think so. Like, I think it's a bit weird that if you're going to categorize your kid through social success, and that's it. It's like,
but that's only now. We're talking with hindsight, right? We're talking through years of bitter experience of learning to value our kids in very different ways and learning to see the immeasurable heart of our children, rather than the showpiece achievements that other people might be looking for.
Agree. And the wins which are going to be immeasurably bigger than any wins you would get for any other kid on a day-to-day basis that they would be posting on socials. We wouldn't share that outside of a group who we have
Yes, you're right about
very
that. Yeah,
close
definitely.
care and connection about, because it's too personal. It's too personal a journey to have got that win, and you're not going to just casually throw it out to the world.
Well, because people don't know that, like you're saying, it's a journey,
Yeah.
right? People don't know the journey it's taken to get to the fact that Otto is using a knife and fork, right?
Exactly.
Or that,
Yeah.
or that Jay has come down for
Yeah.
dinner. We would share it in a group of, an autistic support group, for example, like Dee McMahon, who is one of the previous guests I've had this season, put a picture of her son's first day at college, and I was just like, I was so full of pride and so sort of happy, but it hit me so much harder than all of the countless other ones of like kids' first day at school and stuff. So like, yeah, whatever. But for that one, it meant so much more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know the story behind it and I know the journey behind it. So it does hit harder, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So to try and bring that back to the Joneses moment, because I think I kind of put it on a social sidetrack slightly there.
No, but it's all valid.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's linked and it's related, because the whole Joneses thing is about how you try and show yourself, be it in your neighborhood or be it socially. For me, it's like I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just like I really don't care what you think of me. Like when I take my kids to school, this is my kid. I'm going to do the best I can for them, and that's it.
And then you evolve to that state, don't you? You to then sort of almost identify yourself apart from the Joneses. There's an analogy that I make. Do you like The Simpsons, Sam?
I mean, I grew up on The Simpsons and then Family Guy.
There is an episode of The Simpsons, I believe it's season 7, where the Simpson children are adopted by the Flanders, right? So Homer and Marge have to go on a parenting course.
I know the
and the Flanders adopt them, and they take them to get baptized when they find out that they haven't got God, right? And there's a moment where the Simpsons pass their parenting course and they're racing to the river that the kids are being baptized in, right? And Homer stops the baptism, and they're just all in the river, and Maggie is stood in the middle, and Maggie is having to make a choice between whether to go for the Flanders or for the Simpsons. And she looks at the Flanders, and they're stood on a hill, and it's beautiful. It's a rainbow, there's butterflies, they're angelic, they're dressed impeccably. And then she looks back to the Simpsons, and the Simpsons are bedraggled and they're covered in mud, and I think a frog hops out of Homer's trousers. And that is the most perfect analogy of how I see my family compared to other people's families.
I love that. It's a great analogy.
But fortunately, Maggie chooses The Simpsons, and I think I want to be like The Simpsons, right? There's definitely neurodivergency going on there, right? Yeah. Bart's definitely got ADHD or something.
Definitely. And better the chaos. Yeah, you want to embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
I love the chaos, because life isn't this idyllic picture on the mountain like you were describing on the Flanders side. It is this beautiful chaos down here. And that's what you want, and that's what you need to spend time in, because that's where the good stuff happens, right?
Yeah, and I think we all identify with The Simpsons, right?
Yes.
I think, surely, neurodivergent families identify more with The Simpsons than the Flanders.
I think so, yes, definitely, yes.
In the early days of my family, I did spend, I think, too much time trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? Trying to blend in, trying to be more like other people. Possibly because I was in denial, but you do things like I would take my kids to play football, right? None of them liked football. They all fucking hated it. They spent their time sort of wandering around, not paying attention, right? Not listening, and sort of looking the other way and playing with the nets and all, all of that shit. And I'd be like, well, we're going to try it again next week. They'll get the hang of it. And I tried so many of these groups way more times than I should. I did drama and parkour, and Jay would try it and he would fucking hate it. And I'd still try to get us to go back, because that's what I wanted from my life, right? I wanted kids that were engaged in those kind of activities. And it's one of those things, like, you can take a horse to water, right? Mm-hmm. You can't make it drink. And I couldn't even take my horse to water in the end. But you try. Did you find yourself doing that?
Yeah, in a pretty similar vein. Like we were like, okay, let's go to all of the classes we should be going to and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Like we'll go to music classes and sports classes, and obviously for us there's a physical disability angle which
Yeah.
becomes much more prevalent. But the things like the arts and crafts classes, the music classes, like that they're not going to work because she's just operating on a slightly different plane to everyone else. So
And does it almost become kind of proving a point as well in the early days of like, well, she might be differently abled, but she can do this and she can do that, even if she's not really interested in it. It's like, no, fuck it, she can play the tuba.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. It's like I'm sure someone must have done this, but kind of like translating the 7 stages of grief into going through that journey with your kid with disabilities or neuro differences, because you go through these journeys of there's denial, there's anger, there's acceptance, there's trying to kind of get them into things, and then
there's bargaining.
There's loads of bargaining.
How much bargaining?
I will give you all the sweets in the world if you just put that top on. Jesus Christ. There's a lot of bargaining. But you go to that point, and then I think, based on what we've done, I think we do that to prove it to ourselves that we can do that, not them. So it's like, despite what our kids are going through, I'm the parent that can take them to that class, and I can do that.
Yeah,
and
even when they don't
they don't want to be there. But you're like, no, I'm that parent that I'm just going to be so on it. I'm going to make them do it. But that's the early day thing, right? You're like, okay, we're going to hit everything, and we're going to do everything we can, and see what sticks. And
and I think there's a definite human desire to be part of society, to be part of a crowd, right? I think it's an evolutionary hangover, right? Self-preservation. You move with the herd, or you get picked off by the lion. So you see what everyone else is doing. You're like, right, I'm gonna follow along with them, and I'll try and keep up. And there's a feeling of safety in belonging to a larger group of people. So, like I say, it's an instinct, right? You do it without thinking. You're always looking at what other people are doing and wanting to do that, because I guess you don't want your kids to be outsiders. And for a long time, I would want them to fit in. So you do stuff that you like, school sports day. Fucking school, it's just the worst, right? Too many school sports days. I've just sort of gone, they'll be fine with this. And they're not. I mean, it is like, I mean, have you been to a school sports day?
Yeah, our daughter had her first proper sports day this summer.
And how old is she?
She is 8 at the moment, and it was a very hot day. There's no shade there. It was intense. It was very full on. Again, everyone's experience is different, and I know there was huge elements of the day she did not enjoy, but there was elements of the day she absolutely loved, and she was she was with her walking frame, working the track round for the 100 meters race, and it was great to see that. But at the same time, we're realistic as human beings and parents to think that, this is not a level of competition that she needs to be involved in, spending time and effort of herself in, because there's so many things she's going to need to concentrate on in life. Let's focus on other bits, right? And then you've got the other parents there who are like, well, my kid is probably the fastest kid in year 3. It's like, okay, it's like, great. And let me tell you what I think about your kid. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know if that translates in a podcast, but that's...
You start booing him when he's...
and apparently it's frowned upon to boo children at sports
You can't
day.
do that, apparently. Like, negative banners are not accepted either.
Very strange, very strange.
Like, but in the early days when they were like, the sports day's on, your kid's got to take part. And it's like... I didn't go to the first couple because it's like, well, they're just going to have some running races and some 3-legged races and throwing a beanbag in a bucket or whatever it is. And then I went to one, and it is fucking feral. The whole thing is just like so visceral. It's so noisy. It's so raucous. It's how I imagine gladiatorial combat, right? It's just like there's just tribes of people just cheering and shouting, and oh man. And I mean, I'm a neurotypical, allegedly, and I was dysregulated. It was so much. So I'm just thinking, when I saw that, it's like, how are my kids expected to cope in this? So Jay really hates crowds and doesn't like excessive noise, and also hates sport. And on the other side of it, you got Otto, who loves sport, but is again really, really dysregulated by loud noises and sudden noises, and he's also incredibly anxious by the concept of competition. So these are the worst places. And I felt like when I went to one, I was like, what have I been doing? What I've been pushing them into for so long without really understanding what I was doing. And I shouldn't want them to be in that situation
Yeah.
for any reason, because it's not good for them and it's not helpful for them. And then India had her first one last year, and I saw the images, and it was like, oh, she looks like she's having a great time. And I asked her how she went. She's like, I hated it. So I think this is the year where I go, she's not going to do it. I'm going to just say, no, you're not going to do it. You don't have to do it. And I think getting the confidence to be able to accept and understand what your kids can and can't do, and regardless of the fact that everyone else is doing it, just going, no, that one's not for us, is a huge thing. It's a big step on that journey, like you say, of not keeping up with the fucking Joneses.
Exactly that. And one of the conversations we're having at home at the moment is there's a couple of birthday parties coming up that our daughter's been invited to. And then I know that it's going to be intense for her to go there. I know.
But what's the birthday vibe? It's not paintballing.
No, it's a girl's birthday. They're doing it at the house. There's a disco. There's some stuff going on. It's going to be loud. There's going to be a lot of lights. There's going to be a lot of girls running around. Right. And it's like, okay, we'll give it a go, see if it works. I'm 99.9% sure it's not going to work, just because it's going to be super intense. And neurotypicals in general ain't the best friends of neurodivergents in a loud setting. And
does she want to go?
She wants to go because there's a degree of like, okay, I want to see this person, or I want to be involved in this. But when it gets to seeing that person or doing the thing, they can't do it. They just kind
Isn't that the same thing that we're going through? Aren't they just trying to keep up with the Joneses as well? They just don't realise it. That they look at other people and go, I want to do what they're doing, and again, it's that slow journey to acceptance that actually, I don't want to do that at all. That's awful. That's a dreadful thing to do.
I can't believe I've never even.
No, I haven't until that moment.
But that's a really good point. That's a case of like, you don't need to do that. Do you want to do that? You don't have to do that. Do what you want to do. Just be happy.
But I think just as it's taken us a while to get there, I think it's going to take our kids a while to. I mean, I think Jay is certainly there now. I think Otto is starting to get there, which is really nice. I see him advocating for himself now. Like the whole class are going swimming tomorrow, and he was like, "Oh no, I don't want to go. Don't want to do it." He loves swimming, absolutely loves swimming, but doesn't want any of the faff. I think, like everyone getting changed, and he's told me, and I'm like, sweet, I'm really happy that you've told me that. Yeah, you're not going to do it. But so he's starting to advocate for himself now. I don't think India's quite there yet. I think there's things that India is doing that in the future she will just opt out of. But again, it's just that discovery, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's incredible that recognizing at that age they can be, I love that, but I don't want to do it with other people. That's just something I'd like to do by myself. And that's our journey as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still am not very good at it.
Right.
I still have these, because it's opting out for anyone. Opting out of what everyone else is going along with is much easier said than done. I'm that guy that is like, I'm always the last up at parties in case I miss anything out. Not because I'm like the party dude, but because I don't want to be the one that missed out the story that happens the next day, So I think opting out is not easy. And I think one of the most important lessons that I learned in my parenting journey was that I can just do that with my kids, that we can just take a step back and not have to do that. And I think I remember the moment that I actually did that for the first time. And it was when I think Jay was maybe 6 and Otto was maybe 4. And we went camping with a big group of people, and they all went out for the day. They're like, we're going to go to a medieval festival, right? Which is, as you imagine, right? And they were like, there's going to be falconry, and there's going to be knights, and there's going to be mead. I'm like, those three things sound fucking excellent to me. I'm like, wicked. Yeah, I'm on board. But then I was
douse me up, laddie. Yeah.
But then I was like, I have to take 2 neurodivergent kids to that. And I realized that would be way less fun than I imagined in my head. And everyone else is going. And for the first time, I think that was when I advocated for my own family. I went, nah, we're going to stay here. We'll just stay and we'll go and make a den in the woods, right? So they all went out and they had a wicked time, and me and my kids made a den in the woods, and it rained and we had a fucking amazing time. It was so nice. And I just remember when they came back and they told me about it, it's like, oh, a sword fight broke out in the middle of the crowd. Like, and I was like, can you imagine my kids in that situation? Imagine Otto with a sword fight just sort of like spontaneously breaking out. Or I just was so relieved, and I felt so sure that I'd made the right decision, that it was like a really big thing for me. I remember it. I will never forget the moment that I think I advocated for my own family and didn't go along with the crowd.
Yeah. How validating for you, like thinking, I've done that. I made that choice, and that's great.
Yeah. Have you had the other way around, where you've kind of pushed through and then really regretted it?
Yes. yeah. We've had that moment. Like, I told her, like, one of the big things she has is sensory processing disorder. So anyone singing "Happy Birthday" and balloons,
Right.
she loses her fucking shit. So yeah, we've been to parties, but it'll be fine. Okay. Oh no, they're spontaneously singing "Happy Birthday." Oh my god. Okay, headphones. Let's go. Come on. And it becomes a nightmare.
Then again, I find I sort of, because we still do it as well. I'm not saying that I opt out of everything that is potentially triggering for my kids, partly because I think sometimes you do need to go a little bit out of your comfort zone just to see if they're able to handle it a little bit, but also because you forget. Sometimes, like, and you look back at the end of the day, you go, that was a fucking shambles. What the hell happened? And then you piece it together and go, I should have definitely seen that coming. And it always happens in hindsight, because I think it's so subliminal, this desire to want to do what everyone else is doing. It creeps up on you and it takes over sometimes without you realizing it. So it's hard to always be mindful of what it is that your kids are able to handle at any given time. So it happens after, in the debrief, where we're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am sure that I'm not the only person that has had this sort of moment of like, oh, why can't we just be like normal families? And it's normally when we're out and about and everyone's kicking off, and I'm just like, I'm just done with shouting, or I'm just done with trying to control the madness, or like, and then you look at other families and you go, why can't we be more like them? And that is when sometimes the unavoidable tinge of envy creeps in. And I definitely feel this sometimes, and I feel awful for feeling it sometimes, but it is something that is worth addressing, because I think we all feel it. That's just wishing that we didn't have to deal with everything that we have to deal with, which I imagine that you feel as well, right?
Like 1,000,000%, like so much. And there's interactions at every point of every day. Like, oh, for fuck's sake, I wish shit didn't have to be this difficult. And
Yeah,
exactly the same with you, I'm sure. Like, simple things. Okay, we need to go and pick up a prescription for pharmacy, but okay, you guys need to come with me. We have to do this, and that in itself becomes a whole torture exercise. Okay, no, I don't want to go. No, it's cold or it's raining. I don't want to wear that top. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to do that. Every interaction is super complex. And you look at families and you just see them like out the window, and they're just strolling along the street like da 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 da. And you're like, really? Wow.
and sometimes you go like, you see a parent go, put your jumper on, and then they'll just fucking do it
And you're like, okay.
straight away. You're like,
Wow.
and just like small things that I am, because I don't covet things the way that other people covet things. I don't look at someone's nice car and go, oh, I wish I had that car. Or, I wish I had your house. It's like, I wish I had compliance. Just occasionally. Like, it's because I think with the car and with the house and, with material things, there is an understanding. I think that they're choices I've made. It's to a degree within my control. I could make some sacrifices and get that car, for example.
Are you at the point now you covet a car? Are you not kind of a red convertible, like top down moment? Are you, Mark? Do we need to talk through that?
No, I genuinely don't. Like, I don't covet material things at all.
Right. I hear you.
But where I find myself sort of being envious is about the shit I can't change, that I can't influence. And that's that I can't change the fact my kids are neurodivergent. And I can't change the fact that they just cannot sit still in public, right? Or that they find crowds overwhelming, or, and you find yourself slipping into that. And that's where I have to catch myself and go, you can't change that, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing I can change about this
Yeah.
situation. It's not like I can go, I'll just work some extra hours.
Yeah.
or I'll cut back on the avocado and toast.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And then my kids will suddenly become neurotypical.
No.
So it's really unhealthy to find yourself sort of spiraling into that mindset.
Definitely. Like seeing everyone else at school gates, walking down the street with neurotypical kids. It's really hard. It's really sad in a lot of ways. There's always a sense of loss, of longing. You have those moments of like feeling, okay, there is a superpower in there because my kids are the kids they are and they're amazing, and they don't have to think about the conformity to all the bullshit that your kids think about. But it is hard. It is hard. There's no other way to describe it, right?
But it's based on an unrealistic view of reality, though. I think that's the thing that I have to kind of bring that back to. It's like it is based on the life that you want to have, not the actual life you have. It's a mirage. It's like it's not. We don't have that life, so there's no point in me wishing for that. This is where stoicism comes into it, right?
Exactly. So again, this goes back to those 7 steps of just like acceptance. It's acceptance. The point you get to where you're like, this is my jam, and how good can I make it? And it takes a lot of people a long time to get to that.
But it's not linear. This is the thing with the 7 stages of grief, is that with anything, you get it. You don't get through one stage and then never go back. You find yourself slipping into it, and sometimes, I do find myself slipping into that a little bit, and then giving myself a bit of a talk and doing, well, this is what you got. Just
you can affect change to a degree, but some things you have to just be like, fuck, okay, accept that, and I'm going to be a bit happier knowing I can't change that stuff. That's it.
Yeah, there's no point worrying about the things you can't change. And I just want to be clear here as well. I don't ever resent my kids.
Come on, you do a bit.
Like, no, I don't. Well, it depends what, if Jay's been particularly rude to me. Well, I don't resent it, but no, I don't resent my kids, and I don't regret my kids. And, but I do sometimes, and in my sort of darkest moments, resent the fact that I have so much shit to deal with, like the hand that fate has dealt me. I'm just like, oh, fuck off! Another thing, really? Come on, just give me a break. I'm dealing with enough as it is.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, it's not resenting them; it's resenting all of the shit that goes around making them the amazing people they are. You're like, okay, can we just dial down the shit that we have to deal with? That's all.
Yeah. And then you look at other people and you're like, they could take a bit of a kicking from life for a bit. Give them some of the shit.
Exactly, yeah.
They've got it made.
How do I pass some of this on to them so we can all have an even... I mean, that's socialism, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Share it around. Spread the love, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Agree with that.
Socially proportional trauma.
I mean, it's a niche political campaign, but let's see how it works.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself listening to the Joneses complaining about shit?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how violently vitriolic I can be about this, but yeah, I do regularly. And some of the conversations or some of the demands I see on even local WhatsApp groups is just like, my God, guys, I've actually learned to be like, okay, I'm going to step away and not respond to this, because I've always been the person that's like, no, that's bollocks. I'm going to throw that fucking grenade in that and see what explodes. And I just like, I can't do that anymore. I just can't do that with our kids living in this neighborhood. I can't be that guy. But yes, to get back to your point, I hear that a lot, and it's intense.
When you hear people going, oh, it's a nightmare. I have to keep taking them to all the clubs, and it's like they've got swimming one day and they've got, tap dancing the next day. It's like, oh, fuck off. Oh, my heart breaks for you that your child is multi-talented and you can't pin down one of them to excel at. Jesus, pipe down.
Yeah.
At least you get to leave the house, mate.
Exactly. There's that in there. Yeah.
but listening to people complaining about what we would consider absolute trivialities, and like, of going, oh, it was so hard getting, I'm going to make up a name here. It was so hard getting Barnaby out of the house this morning. And it's like, dude, the mountain you think you're climbing, you haven't even reached base camp compared to the shit we have to deal with. Pipe down.
Exactly. There's a huge relativity in that, right? But then at what point do you call it, if at all? Do you call
I
it?
don't actually. Yeah, I don't know. Do you? No, I don't think I ever have. I just tend to sort of mentally check them off as people to hang out with.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's a difficult one, because at the same time, like, everyone is going through their own shit. Like, you can't denounce that.
No, because you're invalidating, right? It's what we do with our kids, right? You don't want to invalidate their feelings,
yeah,
because their feelings are valid and they're real. But
our journey is so much more fucking difficult.
You do, every now and again, it's important to introduce a dose of perspective.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, but yeah. And how do you do that? How do you make them realise that?
Yeah, I'm not very good at doing that.
I'm not either, and without doing it in a way which is a bit too kind of brutal and shocking. Yeah, I don't know quite what.
Because no one wants to be that guy.
No.
You don't want to be the guy who's like, oh man, I've really, really hurt my back, and someone will go, well, I don't care, I got cancer. It's like, all right. I mean,
Yeah, right. That's exactly it. It's like, yeah, okay, someone's going to win at some point. I mean, where do you go up the chain?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not a competition. It really isn't.
One of the things I've thought about, right, is whether this whole keeping up with the Joneses ever works in reverse. Do you think they ever look at us and our situation and go, oh, I wish we were a little bit like that. I wish we were a little bit more chaotic. I can't imagine that they would. A part of me likes to think that maybe every now and again they'll go, you know what, these guys actually have a lot of fun, because we do. Out in public, we would leave appalled people in our wake, but we're having fun while we're doing it. And I like to think that even though they're slightly appalled, there is a little air of wanting a little bit of that carnage that we have, of being a bit less uptight, maybe.
I think definitely yes. I think with keeping up with the Joneses in the circles you run in, that involves a structure, an order, and a degree of compliance, which you think is like, okay, this is how things should be. And for us and our kids, it is anarchic, right? Because all rules are like, rules? Fuck your rules. I will tell you what we're going to do when we're going to do it. And there's that. And there is a beauty in that anarchy that you can just, okay, we'll just let things go a bit more free, right? We're not going to worry if there's a wrapper of a sweet on the floor, because we know that that's just going to be a whole other world of mess, like in 2 minutes. And there is an absolute freedom of beauty in that, but there is also a massive degree of exhaustion that goes along with that. That's the dichotomy, right? That's it.
Yeah, because us saying like fuck the rules, is and embracing anarchy isn't necessarily a hedonistic approach. It's not just like, yeah, fuck the rules, fuck everyone. It's like, no, we've tried the rules. We cannot impose the rules, so we've given up. It's not, do you know what I mean? It's a very different take on on a similar approach. It's not a defiance of the rules, it's an acceptance that we're never going to be able to adhere to the rules, so we just let go of it. The expectation.
Yeah, exactly that. So anarchy is not the right word, more of kind of a,
it's less punk, more jazz.
I think it is. It's avant-garde. We're avant-garde in the way we parent.
That is definitely what people think when they see me parent. Amongst other things. And actually, the other thing is the Joneses themselves are also keeping up with the Joneses.
Right?
They're looking at other people and going, I want what they've got. Everyone's looking up, right? Where that's the weird thing about, we're almost like a counterculture, because we're not looking up at anyone now. We've given up on that. We're the only people walking around going, well, I'm just,
we're level.
I'm just level with everyone else on, with all the neurodivergent families on the floor. But we're not, that is such a liberating thing, like you said earlier, right? Isn't it? Where you drop that expectation that you're going to be anything other than who you are, right? There's
Right.
no pretense. You're assessing your kids by how they are now, not how you want them to be.
Yeah.
With the caveat that sometimes you slip into that and then you catch yourself and go, yeah, sort yourself out. And that is quite a relief once
Oh my
you let go of
God,
that.
it's a superpower, right? If you can walk into a room, be it work or be it socially, and be like, this is me, this is what I care about, I don't give a fuck about this thing, this is where I'm at. That is a powerful, powerful way to be.
You have this sort of bulletproof reason for it as well. Do you know what I mean? You're not just being
A dick.
difficult.
Yeah,
You're not just
exactly.
being, you're not just being an arsehole. You're like, nope, this doesn't work for us because we're a neurodivergent family, and I can talk to you about all the reasons why we can't fit into your mainstream way of doing things. I've made some podcasts. You might want to check those out. Like, I've done the research, but so therefore, just let my kids stand on the chair.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to eat better standing up with one leg up there. That's fine. And that'll work. Just go there.
I will wipe their footprints off the wall. If you insist, I will do that. Okay, but stop tutting. So yeah, I think just letting go of that imaginary vision of what your life was, and this sort of, I alluded to this a bit earlier, and it was, before you have kids, you have this vision of how you're going to be, right? You have this view that your family is going to look like the Joneses. I think, it's this sort of this aspirational ideal that your family's going to look like that. And it's that gradual letting go of that when you meet your kids and go, yeah, this is not, this is an unworkable ambition.
It's not all rubbish.
So looking at the positive side of things is something we've touched on a couple of times, but just once you embrace the fact that it is absurd and unreasonable to try and keep up with the Joneses, it's strangely liberating. You just sort of relax a little bit. The realization that the standard the rule book that everyone else is judging their lives by and following, no longer applies to us it's a wonderful moment, isn't it?
It is a beautiful thing. And I don't know about you, like thinking back to when I was a kid, like I remember that I was a bit of a contrarian. That I like to do things differently.
Okay.
And not to the degree I think that our kids are going through. I don't think it is, but I think there's a beauty in that where it's the don't give a fuck attitude. It's a very valuable thing to have in this world right now. That you don't have to conform to things that are going on, and you do things in the way that you think, the way that you want to do things to the betterment of you. That is a valuable skill, I think. It's a valuable thing to have. Doesn't mean it's easy for us as parents in any way to help our kids do that, but I think it is a really beautiful thing.
It's the people that operate outside the societal norms are the ones that end up doing the really crazy shit. Like they end up achieving things because they think outside the box.
Exactly. The Joneses get fuck all done of any interest, right? Yeah.
No, the Joneses get done the stuff that other people have innovated and put in place because they're thinking in totally different and unusual ways.
Yeah, I think the interesting stuff comes from the people who like fuck that. I'm gonna do stuff in the way that I think is the way things should be done.
It's not always successful. There were going to be fuck ups along the way.
I mean, yeah, anything good worth building has fuck ups along the way, and there may never be something good built off the back of it. But there will be a journey of discovery, and that is a good.
It's going to be, if nothing else, it's going to be interesting.
Yes, exactly.
And one of the other things that I find a positive is that when you sort of start living on the fringes of societal norms, you notice it in other people. You sort of see other people or like a way that they might look at your kids and smile when they're doing something. You're like, you're one of us, aren't you? It's like a secret society.
Yeah.
It's like the Masons.
Yeah, exactly. There's no handshake. You just say,
yeah. There should be like a secret sign that we've all got to go, I'm like a bit of solidarity. It's like Hunger Games,
I think there should be, yeah. I don't think we need a sunflower lanyard. I think it could be a little bit more subtle than that.
No, it's like a gang sign. The Bloods and the Crips have the little gang sign. We should have one like an ND, neurodivergency gang sign. You just kind of flash to go, oh yeah, one of us. Okay, sweet. But it is that they're the people that you end up being drawn to, and that kind of comes back to feeling very often in the early on in our journey that there's no one else out there that's going through this shit.
Yes.
So then when you see that other people are not only going through it but have absorbed it and then evolved from it, which I feel like, we're getting to that stage with our kids of we've learned to live with it, and we now, have slightly changed the roadmap to suit us, and that's okay. But then that's when you recognize that in other people, it's really lovely.
Yes, you do see that. You see those people who are kind of behind you, on level with you, and also kind of in front of you where they are, and you kind of like, you're drawn to those people who are a few years down the line.
You are.
Yeah.
And there's also the joy of seeing people who are early on in that journey.
And helping them.
And then going, it's going to be all right, guys. We've been
Embrace
there.
the
No, I know
chaos.
where you
Embrace
are.
it. Embrace
Yeah, I know where you're at, and it's horrible, but and it's still horrible over here as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not, it's still hard. I'm not.
It's going to be horrible all the way, but don't worry. Stay with me on the journey.
But I know what you're going through, and like here are some tips. So it's a bit of a community, and that's really nice and really positive. The other advantage I just wanted to pull together from all of this of not keeping up with the Joneses is that there are a lot of things that we are invited to do that I want absolutely no fucking part of. And I can happily go, no, I do not want to join your school fundraising committee. I know you expect other parents to get involved. That's absolutely fine, but I'm going to flash my gang sign at you.
I mean, the get out of jail free card we have is great. Like we can.
It's not free though.
Okay,
it's very.
It's
very
a get
expensive.
out of jail card that you've invested a lot of money in and unexpected time and effort into having, but you do have that card where you can just be like, can't do it, not interested.
No, exactly. You don't feel beholden to anybody, in terms of any of their expectations or pressures, because we're doing us, and that's absolutely acceptable.
Agree. Yeah, we miss a lot of bullshit. We gain a lot of bullshit. We miss a lot of bullshit.
Neurodiversity champions.
On to neurodiversity champions now. This is any societies or organizations or other humans that are doing excellent work in the world of neurodiversity. Have you got any neurodiversity champions for us, Sam?
I have one which it's not specifically neurodivergent, but they do a lot of amazing work in the world of neurodivergency, which sounds a bit of a paradox, but bear with me and I will explain what I mean. So there's an organization called Dad La Soul. So think of De La Soul.
Oh, I've heard of these. Yeah.
And I mean, as the name suggests, it's for dads to come together, specifically dads of newborns and who are just struggling, any dads with any worries, concerns, dads with neurodivergencies. You get together and you create a safe space to talk. And it's an amazing, amazing space to be in, right? So imagine you went to a pub and there was 50 guys in a pub. You would have you'd have a conversation. Hello, mate, how you doing? That's it. In this environment, it's so open and honest. You go there and everyone shares their intimate journey that they're on. They're like, this is me, I'm separated from my partner, I'm autistic, this is what I'm dealing with, I've got a kid, I don't know what to do about this. And it's the most welcoming, amazing group of human beings together. And it's an amazing organization, an amazing movement. And I've got so much love for it. And they operate get-togethers in Brighton, Worthing. They're global now, I think. They've got some global connects going on.
Cool. Is it just in a pub?
No. It's not a pub meetup. They meet up in independent venues. They do play dates for kids in spaces.
Okay.
But so the website is www.dadlasoul, as in Delasoul, but dadlasoul.com. Information found on there. They have some very, very super active WhatsApp groups for different interests. So if you're into sports or you want your kids to be into this, it's great. I think
that sounds amazing, because I think there's so few spaces for dads to sort of get together, for men to get together really, and have that sort of that openness and that sort of vulnerability. So to have this space that is specifically sort of carved out to allow that, and that people can do that without feeling like they're burdening people, or just without holding it in. I think is
Exactly,
really
and there's
important.
no judgment, and it's like it's okay.
That
Yeah, it's
sounds
great.
wonderful. And also, for parents of neurodivergent kids, I guess that is especially
Yes,
valuable, I think, because again, I think a lot of dads go through, well, I mean, all parents of neurodivergence go through a tough time, but I think a lot of dads don't talk about
they,
it. I don't think I mean, a lot of dads are in denial as
yeah,
well. That is possibly because they don't talk about it enough and they don't meet other people who are going through similar things. So yeah, that sounds like a wonderful thing. I'm definitely going to include those in the show
sweet.
notes.
That's my shout out for ND champions.
Nice one. The neurodiversity champions I wanted to raise here was actually, I'm recording sort of a little bit ahead of time at the
Mhm.
moment. So by the time this goes out, it will actually seem kind of quite old, but it's happened this week. And I don't know if you heard it, but BBC Woman's Hour
I have,
had a,
and my wife sent me the link. I haven't listened to it yet. Yeah,
they had a whole episode dedicated to send in schools and how neurodiversity is handled, and it was great. It was really good, and it was a really kind of important focus on just getting the voices heard and on very mainstream radio. And I think there's going to be follow-ups and stuff as well,
amazing.
and there were loads of really great people, like Kelly Bright was on there, and she's doing a lot to raise awareness and did some, said some really important stuff. And Marsha Martin of Send Black Mamas, and a couple of mums of neurodivergent kids and teachers, and that was great. But the one that really struck me was the 17-year-old autistic girl, Katie, who was unable to attend mainstream school for 4 years.
Right.
And she was incredible because she spoke so eloquently and so passionately about how she's been failed by the system, because we're, as parents, we're so used to advocating for our kids, but to hear it from one of the
Yeah.
kids that is
Right.
currently being failed, who's not been in mainstream education for 4 years, it was really powerful to
Wow.
hear that from someone who was she just was absolutely laser guided in the things that she
Oh,
said. It
amazing.
was really, she was really on it, and it was really hard hitting and really powerful to hear. So, there was, of describing how, that everyone's saying, oh, all kids should be in school, and her saying, I have PTSD. If I went back into school, that would trigger a meltdown. That is not safe for me, and it's not healthy for me. And she's been let down by the school system and not been able to fulfill her true potential. The way she said it was, that I'm intelligent and I'm willing to learn, but I've not had the accommodations that would enable me to reach my full potential. And it was like, because we talk about these kids all the time in the SEN system, and all these kids who aren't in school, but they don't get a voice, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, there's someone with a voice on mainstream radio. It was just brilliant. She was incredible. What an
Oh,
advocate.
wow. Wow. Okay, I'm going to listen to that tomorrow.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good and definitely worth a listen. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But I mean, I can't imagine that 17-year-old Katie is going to be listening to this. But
Yeah.
thank you, well done, Katie, because that can't have been easy, but it was incredibly well received, I think.
Amazing.
Tiny epic wins!
Tiny epic wins now. These are the moments that the Joneses would consider nothing worth even raising an eyebrow at, but we, in our neurodivergent worlds, find them to be epic wins. Do you have any tiny epic wins for us this week?
So we managed to go on holiday in August, which was a big deal and amazing and
Yeah.
difficult and all of the things, but a wonderful holiday time. So the first couple of days we were in Napoli, and it was like a bed and breakfast place, and you sit at a table for breakfast, and the breakfast buffet bit where you get food is kind of round the corner in another room. So we left our daughter on the table while we went and got plates of food for our kids.
Not actually
Not on the table, but sitting in a chair by the table next to a random, I think they were Russian. And by the time we came back, our daughter had made best friends with this Russian couple. And I'd never seen a degree of social interaction like it, because, and
Amazing.
we walked back and it was like, the fuck is going on here? And she was like, oh, these are my friends. We're just talking about this. Like, okay, amazing. that was incredible, and I take that as a win from just her being able to feel comfortable engaging in a conversation with a complete stranger.
Yeah, that's
Incredible.
amazing. Because I would presume that she's not, socially, she's not that
No,
outgoing
no,
typically,
and
I guess.
it was amazing to see, amazing to see. So yeah, that's
Oh,
my that
wow. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
huge win.
that's
Yeah, I'd
my
love
tiny
that.
epic win of number one. The other one, which is in the same field as well, is, and we had no knowledge of this prior, but as mentioned, that one of the kind of the bigger conditions that daughter has is cerebral palsy, which affects her in
Mhm.
physically. And we picked her up from school, and we found out that she gave an assembly to a whole class on cerebral palsy without telling.
And you didn't
We
know that
had
was
no
coming?
idea it
What?
was coming. That she'd arranged with the teacher that she was going to do that morning, and gave a class and talked about cerebral palsy and fielded questions from a year about her.
Holy shit,
And it
that's
was like,
amazing.
okay, oh girl, that you
Off her own
of
back.
nothing to do with us. We had no idea about,
That's
and
amazing.
that blew our mind. It's like, okay, you're a superpower. You're an incredible human being. You're owning this, and
Yeah,
I
that's
was,
amazing.
So I mean, they're not tiny epic wings; they're massive epic wings.
The epic,
Yeah.
epic win. I find this is what I'm
Yeah.
finding more and more with this
Everything
section.
that's tiny is actually massive. There's no tiny. There's no
Yeah.
tiny.
No, it's the epic.
Yeah.
It definitely underline and
Yeah.
bold that epic. That is
Yeah, so
excellent.
those are our
Amazing.
big two wins for the last 2 months. I'll bank those. They were good.
No, yeah, definitely, absolutely. My tiny epic win is around India's footwear. There was a bit of a saga that has really been playing out on the Neuroshambles Instagram account, where it just seems that a lot of the posts that I put are about India's inability to wear actual shoes. So it's all about Crocs and wearing Crocs and having to introduce new Crocs when the other ones literally wear out. And just the amount of shit I have to deal with trying to get footwear onto India is unholy. The day before school, she's going to a different school. Crocs are sort of frowned upon in this
Really?
school. The
Wow.
infant
Okay.
school was okay. Not many people wear Crocs in this other one. So I was like, let's get you in some actual footwear. And I ordered 2 pairs. I ordered a pair of Crocs anyway, just to be safe. I didn't want the dysregulation when she was going in on the first day of the new school. But I ordered some other ones as well, which I know have been successful with Jay and which I was hoping that she'd go for. And she tried on the ones that I'd ordered for Jay previously and was a hard no. Put them on and went, no, that's it. It's like, oh God, these were 20 quid. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just that, it's gone.
Yeah,
20 pounds, just gone. So I was like, oh, Jesus. So, okay, but we've got the Crocs. She tried the Crocs on. They worked. It's like, oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. The Crocs are good. So I'll send her in Crocs. That's absolutely fine. We're walking into school on the 3rd day of wearing these Crocs. And I accidentally stood on the back of the Crocs and they broke. I'm like, fucking 3 days in. What am I
Oh
doing?
God.
Oh, so because it's my fault as well. To a degree, it's my fault for stepping on them. It's my fault for purchasing unofficial Crocs, so they're slightly weaker. But she was super dysregulated because now has no footwear.
Right.
And the next day, I was like, "Look, I've got to order you some new Crocs. What were you going to wear?" And she just wore the ones that she previously rejected immediately. She was like, "I just wear them." It was like, "What? That was an option all this time. All this time, that was a fucking possibility. Are you shitting me?" Oh, it's so frustrating. But I mean, but that was my win was that now, like I said, do you want me to order you some new Crocs? It's like, no, I like these ones now. It's like,
That's
so
great.
my win is that I've weaned her off Crocs by literally breaking the Crocs on her feet. I didn't realize I'd have to go to such extreme measures. But now she's wearing semi
And
sensible
you've got
footwear
a financially
to go into
viable
school.
route going forward to get more footwear should those break. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Amazing.
I'm going to sacrifice a pair of footwear before she will then accept the other
As
ones
long
on
as the
offer.
gods are happy, she's happy. That's it.
Yes, exactly. One in, one out.
What the flip?
Okay, it's the what the flip moments now. These are moments where, as parents of neurodivergent children, our kids will throw something absolutely bizarre or unexpected at us, and we don't really know how to respond. So, My what the flip moments, again, they're just things that Jay says that, that
I love
completely
the things
baffle
that you
me.
come out with that Jay says. It's
Uh,
beautiful.
so so one was he's getting quite frustrated with his new school and the kids at his new school because he perceives them as not being as clever as him. And his bar is very high. And he came out one day and he was just like, just like the kids are just not very clever. And he said, I mean, those kids didn't know how many newtons in force are required to break a femur. It's like their parents haven't taught them anything. It's like, hang on. Firstly, I have never taught you that. That's not from me. Secondly, I think this is a very high bar you're setting for the levels of intelligence.
I love that. I love it.
It's so funny. And the other what the flip moment from Jay I had was when, from nowhere, he just went, "What's your favourite shade of cow skin?" While I was thinking about all of the options, he went, "Mine is very light beige with orange spots." Like, no cow is fucking beige and orange.
That's a unique, bovine creature. I've never thought about that.
Genuinely don't know where that's come from.
I love that.
So that is it for this episode of Neuroshambles. Once more, Sam, thank you so much for coming on and chatting to me, and for sharing your neuroshambolic lifestyle with us.
Thank you very much, Mark. My pleasure.
I want to say thank you to the audience as well for continuing to listen and continuing to support Neuroshambles and for continuing to send nice messages to me. If you do want to reach out and say hello or suggest some topics for future episodes, then you can email me at hello@neuroshambles.com, or you can follow us on the socials on Instagram or Threads or Facebook. And I think that is all for now. All that remains for me to say is have a nice life.